Our perception of life governs and guides much more of our experiences than we usually recognize. The power of conditioning is impressive in the sense that sometimes something simple, when adopted as truth, can guide our worldview, establishing as real and, as a rule, something that may not necessarily be. It is deeply necessary for us to understand how much our lives are guided by concepts and understandings that serve as a foundation for a way of relating to life. Yet, most of these are conventions, compasses to help us feel guided, and not exactly reality itself. We put lenses over the universe to somehow navigate through the reality expressed in this space-time. A simple, yet significant example to illustrate the openness of perception we aim for here is the recognition of how we observe the movement of the sun in the sky. Despite having a scientific understanding of this phenomenon, and knowing that in reality, the planet is rotating around this star, which is also rotating around the center of the galaxy, our direct experience is that we here on the planet adopt ourselves as the reference point, and from that, we have the experience that the sun is moving in the sky, orbiting the planet. Therefore, although we know that we orbit around the sun, we do not usually look at the sky and have the experience or clear perception that the planet is rotating around its own axis while the sun is fixed. We do not feel that we are spinning, but rather we experience the phenomenon of the sun traveling across the sky and then falling towards the horizon in a beautiful sunset. From this phenomenon, we can draw two main lessons that are very important. First is that an idea, a belief, or a reference, when adopted as true, dictates and governs with great force our view of reality, our perception of things. Regardless of whether our perception is aligned with the phenomenon or not, our experience will be guided by that perception. Second is the understanding that even with some level of knowledge of what is behind a phenomenon that is expressed to us, this knowledge is not always strong enough to change our perception and direct experience of the phenomenon. Genuine wisdom lies in the integration of knowledge until it truly transforms our perception. Even though we know about the beliefs that govern our experience of a phenomenon, our minds can still be conditioned to interpret reality in the way it is accustomed to perceiving. Therefore, there must be humility and genuine curiosity about life for us to start understanding aspects that we didn't even question before. This is why openness is one of the main conditions for spiritual evolution. To be open means to be available to listen, to see beyond what our limited human condition can perceive. Usually, a materialistic and reductionist scientific approach seems to point us towards an understanding that consciousness is only a phenomenon generated by the brain, and therefore, with the shutdown of this organ that generates the phenomenon, there would be nothing beyond. But this is just one of many conceptions, since consciousness remains one of the most mysterious phenomena for humanity. However, there is another approach that is just as valid, and is present in many ancient spiritual traditions, which states that consciousness is not something produced by the brain, but rather a signal. And our brain is like an antenna, a receptacle that receives this signal, this ever-present frequency that permeates the entire universe. Amidst these intricate divisions, we can and should undertake a vital exercise, examining a belief that, despite serving as guidance, reinforces the illusory separation of life. To make this examination, we should investigate: is there really an outside and inside? Before we look at this question, let's open our eyes to another example. A tree is not just its roots, trunk, branches, or leaves. Nor can we call any of these elements that constitute it a tree by itself. A tree is the nutrients in the soil that move through its structure. It is the light that at every moment is converted into energy. It is the exchange of air carried out by its leaves. And it communicates so intensely and continuously with other organisms and forms of life to such an extent that we cannot separate this expression of life from the system to which it is interconnected. Life expresses itself as what we categorize and separate as the tree, but the tree is not separated from the entire system. Therefore, returning to the question, is there an outside and inside? We often use the concept of something internal and something external to guide us in life. And of course, this concept is important as a way to help focus our attention on aspects and experiences that sometimes emerge from this field we categorize as outside, and sometimes from this other field we categorize as inside. But in terms of perception, how much do we deceive and separate ourselves from reality by establishing a difference between what is inside us and what is outside? We know the scientific phenomenon that is happening, for example, through this video. You are seeing an image that emits light captured by your cornea, which then gets inverted, and that light is then processed by the brain to form the experience of the image. Of course, we see only a certain spectrum of colors that come from this light, but where are you seeing this image? Where the experience of seeing is actually happening inside you? Where are you hearing the voice of this video? Where are you hearing the background music? Inside you. Where did you feel the disappointment when the person you liked rejected you? Where did you feel the pleasure of eating your favorite food? Inside you. Where did absolutely all experiences of joy, sadness, pain, and hope in your life happen? Inside you. And if all experiences, interpretations, and sensations about this external reality actually occurred within you, perhaps this boundary we place separating ourselves from the outer world as separate individuals is much more tenuous and illusory than we perceive. There is not so much distinction between external and internal life. External and internal are directions we adopt as a convention to guide our attention, but they are not necessarily separate dimensions. When we talk about looking inward or even about connecting with external nature, we are in a way pointing to the same thing, to the recognition of the ever-present consciousness that permeates everything and dissolves all duality and all illusion. Even if it sounds a bit strange, allow the ideas presented here to resonate in your consciousness for a while and see what they stir and touch in your belief system. Because the goal here is to invite you, even for a brief moment, to recognize that you are truly one with all of existence, and this boundary that you call yourself is but an illusory perception. The unity of all beings is the key to access collective healing.